Now I'll call the meeting to order. We do roll call, please.
All right. Committee member Hunter. Chair Key.
Yep.
Member Keller is on
Here.
Member Merrill is here. Member Robertson.
Here.
Vice Chair Robinson. Here. Member here.
Present.
And Councilor Lee is on the line.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to item 2, public comments. Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? Anyone online? Okay. We'll move on to item 3. The minutes were submitted to all of you. And are there any changes or amendments to it that anyone would like to see? If not, can I have a motion?
I move we. There.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, unanimously approved. No presentations, and then we move on to committee chair and vice chair elections. So every fiscal year, we elect a new chair or vice chair. So we can open it up for nominations and elections. There are none?
Oh.
Okay.
So I will nominate Mr. Key to retain his position, having done such a great job for so many years. So therefore, my nomination for chairman is Al.
Is there?
Second that.
Second, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? If not, we'll say aye if you are in favor. Any
Aye.
abstentions or nays? Hearing none? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, thank you for signing up again.
Now we open the nominations for vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Walt.
I second that nomination. Any other further comments?
Anybody else interested? It's a sad way to get a position.
Depends how things go.
Things are
It
going
can mean one of two
smoothly.
things. It's very bad or very good. Let's have a vote. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any abstentions or nays? Seeing none, congratulations, Walt.
Yes.
We will be moving on to item 5B, the pickleball and tennis update. So I will turn it over to one of the chairs of the subcommittee to give the report. Or should I let staff do it first?
Let me start.
Okay.
We prepared a staff report and
Okay.
provided it to you. We're looking for we're requesting that the committee review, provide feedback and a recommendation to the city council regarding the potential to to convert the clay court to a hard court and changes to the pickleball program, including pickleball hours, as well as potential improvements to the facilities. And whether that's the clay court conversion or the hard court conversion. The council was going to be discussing at their last meeting when they adopted the budget, items related to pickleball in terms of capital improvement. And then at their July meeting, they're going to talk about potential hours. The conversation regarding the improvements didn't happen and was deferred to the 17th. So with your recommendation, we'll be able to take any recommendations regarding the program, whether it's hours or facility improvements, et cetera, to the council at their next meeting. In your staff report, we outlined that the current pickleball hours are basically daily from opening until noon. In the evenings, Tuesdays and Thursdays after 4, all day on Sunday. And then Michael has been opening additional hours for pickleball usage as available if there aren't any tennis reservations on the court, I think the day before. And so that has opened up additional hours. I see regularly things get transferred over. We just want to highlight that, you know, that court overall has total of, I think, about a little over 300 hours available in a month, just like any other court. 1 hour of tennis usage equates to 4 court hours for pickleball, because you have the 4-to-1 ratio. With the hours that are available now, the way that things are set up, there's 144 of those hours are dedicated towards tennis or available for tennis if they don't make reservations. Some of those, again, kick over to pickleball. And then the remaining hours, after using that 4 by multiplier, is about 720 hours of total availability per month for pickleball. We've been peaking, I'm gonna say that the courts are used regularly, and peak out at about 250 hours a month. And I think you've heard from folks with regards to people wanting more hours to use the courts. And it's not quite clear whether it's because they can't just make a reservation at the time that they want because somebody else has it, or if it's because of the block out for tennis. But since we've increased from 2 to 4 on the courts, we haven't hit peak summer yet, but we're still hitting about that same peak usage right now. So that may change as we get through July. I haven't seen the June numbers yet, but as we get through June and July, that may go up a little bit. But in May, approaching May, we were at 200 hours in March and April, and then about 240 in May. And so it's not hugely different than last year before we had the 4 court.
Okay. And last year we had the 2.
Last year we had 2. I think October was the conversion date.
And the June numbers are on page 5 of 9 of the presentation. It's just not in the earlier one because your report was submitted before you had the numbers.
One more time?
Oh,
Okay, so you have later on.
Yeah, because Will provides the estimated numbers from Michael.
Okay, so what are the numbers for June?
199.5.
Okay, so it hasn't gone.
Yeah, in fact, it's a little bit lower than last year.
Okay.
That's 6.5.
Yeah, so I think we're still, what I'm getting at is that we've doubled the number of courts and have yet to see a significant increase in court hours from when we went to the 4.
Although I will note that fiscal year 26 is 2,353 hours versus fiscal year 25, which is 1,754. So that's a significant increase just overall for the entire year, even though this last fiscal year included some time with only 2 courts.
If you compare this year though, it's calendar year.
Yeah.
It's a little lower,
Lower.
if anything. And the other point is, summer is slow. If you look at the numbers here, it actually drops down. And I noticed that as I've looked at the reservation. We used to have everything jammed up all morning and things like that. So it looks like people are gone, weather's hotter, whatever it is. So it's interesting.
Although last July, between June and July, June of 2025 to July, it went up about 20%. From
It's interesting though, that with 4 courts versus 2 courts, comparing the years.
Yeah.
The numbers aren't really higher this year.
Right.
They're pretty consistent.
Okay. Is there anything else?
And so, like I said, I think, the subcommittee has been meeting and talking about different things, and they have a secondary report that's been attached handed out to you folks. And then the other item is really related to whether or not there's a desire to, the first is there a desire to change the available hours? One item. And then the second item is regards to physical improvements. Is there a desire to make a recommendation with regards to physical improvements, which could include the conversion of the handball courts to dedicated pickleball courts, which would be, I guess, supplementary to the mixed usage at Court 1 versus other option is conversion of the clay court to a hard court, which would allow for maybe some additional play on that court space and potentially allow for permanent conversion of Court 1 to pickleball. And so there are some budgetary numbers that were provided previously and in the report. Really, we're just looking for feedback from the committee as to what you would like to recommend to the council as they have their discussion on the 17th.
So how I'd like to proceed with this is we can ask questions of staff on their report, then we can proceed to Walt and Don's report after that, and then we can ask questions of the other.
Then you're gonna have public.
We'll have public comment.
After that.
Yeah, after that. Are there any questions for Robert? One thing I noticed was the cost was significantly more. Your estimate versus the estimate that Don and I got, is it because the requirement to provide regular wages, or I forget the term?
Prevailing wage?
Prevailing wages, yeah.
Yeah, so if the town funds in any portion, whether it is providing staff support or hiring consultants, once the town gets involved spending money, it becomes a prevailing wage contract. And we are bound by the public contract code. We would have go through a process of developing a design. We would put it out to bid and select the contractor based on price. And so the wage rates would be different than if it was done privately.
Yeah, so that's the estimate you have on how much of it.
Yeah, so
Was it
last
150 to 200?
last year, when this conversation was happening, I just developed what I call rough order of magnitude costs.
Yeah.
And just kind of figured, well, these are some of the items of work that are going to be needed, and kind of ballparked it for budgetary purposes only.
Oh.
And
So
so
the
it's
very
really,
rough estimate.
it's a rough estimate for budgetary purposes only.
Okay.
And if the council approves the capital project to do something, our first step would be to hire a designer to develop a detailed design. And with that would be a more robust estimate.
Yeah, the estimate that Don and I got from, forget the guy's name.
Savion.
Savion, yeah, it was 70K, so. Savion, yeah.
That's conversion.
That's
That's a
conversion.
conversion.
That's conversion, correct.
That seems light, but
It's his industry. I mean, maybe he can do it for that,
maybe.
but he may not be paying prevailing wage, which is why I was a little surprised. Robert, Bob, go
What
ahead.
was the estimate for the handball court?
Let's see, so the estimate that I had for the clay court conversion was
The handball.
between 150 and 250, and the handball court was around 250 to 3. And that's just because it's a lot more demo, a lot more grading, there's access ramps and other things that would have to be built for it.
That's really nice, but my understanding is we don't have enough money for either of them.
I guess right now, my recommendation is figure out what you think is the best, and then the council can talk about whether or not they want to fund it, or if there's another avenue to go about it. But if you pick what you think the best solution is, then I think that's what the council is looking to hear from you.
So my recollection is the tennis fund has something like 200K. Right now, little over 200K. So we do have the money to fund the conversion, even at prevailing wage, but not quite enough to fund it at just the handball courts. But it's possible if the council feels like it's a worthwhile project, then they can see that cash flow wise, tennis fund keeps replenishing itself, because every year we sell a lot of keys, Michael pays us his fee for being able to use the courts, that, you know, the town will get paid back eventually over the years.
I don't think we could use the tennis fund to build 2 pickleball courts. I mean, that's just
Yeah, that,
very different.
it'd probably make more sense to fund the conversion.
I think it might
Because I
be.
think tennis players want playable hard court, and it might be worthwhile to spend on that.
Oh, yes. Plus, as you can see from our report, it also opens up the chance for the tennis players to play on that court, opens up therefore court 1.
Yeah.
A little more. And as Robert has pointed out, it could even be a permanent court, although that's a little unlikely, I think, from the numbers I've seen, but it'd be darn close. So anyway, that's kind of
Question
where
about the fund
ended
though, I mean, some people buy keys strictly to play pickleball, so why would the fund be 100% tennis?
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be.
I think we probably need to expand our
Yeah.
thinking about what that.
I think it's a
fund-
policy choice. Certainly you could say what percentage, or you don't have to even adhere to that if you don't want, if you feel that it's something in the future that people will use more, and then, yeah. So it's really, I think, a policy choice.
I think you can estimate how much the pickleball key holders bring in. That's, of course, a very small amount compared to what player capital pays, and then what the tennis players are bringing in. But it's certainly something that I think the council could look at as designating part of that for some other project.
Are there any other questions for Robert?
What is the negative of changing the court to hard court?
Some people have expressed an opinion they want.
Excuse me, maybe we should use that as part of our
Sure, sure,
report. That doesn't sound like a question for Robert.
Well, actually, sorry.
No, if you have questions for me in terms of my report, I'm happy to answer them. I think as you mentioned, Chair, having the subcommittee kind of report out, you might get some more information. And I think that the real answer is that I don't know how many folks are online, but you did receive some public comment via email that are in your packet that were posted, as well as the information that the council had, and then you have other members of the public here that might be able to answer some of those questions as well.
So why don't we turn it over to the subcommittee report?
Okay, Don, if it's okay, I'll just start.
Sure, and then I,
Report. This actually was a pickleball committee that was formed in order to facilitate the $100,000 donation and try to use it for 2 new pickleball courts. When that $100,000 did not materialize, we then have shifted into looking at a number of other things, which means anything to do with tennis or pickleball. So as you can see from our discussion here, we're now looking to answer the questions that staff has directed us to respond to, and then make a recommendation to the council. On the clay court, just generally, we received 22 responses to both the town council's request some weeks ago, and then the additional request that was made to all key holders for a response. So we have 22 total. Of those, only 16 addressed the clay court. 11 of them said, yes, let's convert it. 5 of them said, no, we like to have that. And as we know, as we point out here, the clay court was donated for that. But you can see the little usage between 11 and 20 hours. And so we reviewed the hours, reviewed the problem of maintenance of that, and the benefits that would be incurred by having a switch, which, as Alex points out, we did that. We could also therefore free up more pickleball time because the tennis players could use the converted court. So when we looked at the we looked at the 5 people who said that they wanted to keep it. None of those is a common user, a frequent user of the clay court. There are 5 people that had used well over 50% of that clay court. not one of those has voiced any opposition to taking away the clay court by conversion. So I think that, at least in my mind, gives us some support for that. So that's kind of where we come out on that, and if everybody agreed, that's what we would recommend to the council. Do you want to take questions one by one here on issue by issue? Or do you want me to go the rest of the report?
Sure. Unless, Don, is there anything you want to add to that specific aspect?
No, I agree with Walt, and I support the conversion of the clay court wholeheartedly.
Okay. I guess question wise, Michael, are you also in support of the clay court to hard court conversion?
Yeah, probably makes more sense. I'm more neutral, so I can go
Okay.
either way, but it probably makes a little bit more sense to.
Can I ask Michael a question?
Sure.
To the chair? You use the clay court probably more than the reservations are
Right.
using. How much of it is specifically intended as clay court instruction versus just because that's a court that you need to use?
Probably it's only usually like 1 or 2 times a year, like maybe May and middle of June. Like right now it's a lot. And then it'll drop off in July.
But I'm trying to ask the question.
The question is, how much is it being used because people specifically want to play on a clay
Right.
court versus being used because it's an available court?
Probably like 1%.
1% because
Okay.
people want to use a clay court.
Yeah, they want to use the clay, only 1% of them.
Okay, and then, because we don't see that on the
Right.
reservation system. And so the court hours that you give us are the number of people that reserve it specifically as clay use,
Right,
which peaks out at, I think, around 20 hours or so a month.
right.
And so if we say, well, 1% of your time is another 1 or 2 hours a month,
Right.
just in terms of just clarifying usage, just wanted
And
to.
the town hasn't seen any revenue for, because if you are not a key holder and you want to play on the clay court, you have to pay like $30 an hour. We don't see any
We don't
revenue,
see that.
right? So that means there's no interest outside of key holder, non-key holders.
No, the town, when I asked that question, said no one pays the $30.
Oh, they just go on the court?
No, they have a whole key. In other words, nobody's interested in just playing on the clay court apparently.
Okay.
So it shows there's no focused interest on that.
Okay, any other questions on this area? No, let's move on to the next
Is there
section.
anybody online?
Why don't we move on to the next section?
Okay, so that's conversion of a handball court. Now, we've looked at this already when we had the possibility of the $100,000 contribution. This is the same issue that had come up, only this time we don't have the possibility of funding so far. A year ago, we last looked at pickleball to make a recommendation to the council last July 2025. We looked at a number of things, including this issue. And the council, upon hearing our various recommendations, we had a whole group there. They, in addition to striping the court for 4 courts, they also said that they supported a new court, 2 new courts for pickleball, converting the handball court. But they appreciated that it would be funded by individuals, just like the tennis court was funded by individuals or tennis players. So far after that, I don't think it's moved on. And as pointed out, there's $250,000 to $300,000 number now. So that looks like it's going to be difficult. I see no reason why we wouldn't repeat our agreement that if funded, it would be a good idea to have those 2 clay courts and then the 2 courts built where we have the handball court. So that's what our recommendation is.
Okay, are there any questions? Or Don, did you have anything else to add?
No, I support building the handball court out as pickleball courts to the extent we have the money, obviously. And if we had to make a choice, I would convert the clay court before I would do the additional two. And the reason for that is I think converting the clay court helps both tennis and pickleball, and it's not just a pickleball addition.
Are there any questions for the subcommittee on this?
To me,
I would add to that, Don, it seems to me the funding is much more likely to come for the conversion because we would hope the council might use part of the tennis fund for that. So I agree with that.
yeah, I think you're improving more people or giving more opportunity for more people if you do the clay court. The other one is a nice thought, but to me, it's just a thought. It's not something that we're gonna do. But I think we still will help a lot of people in terms of having court time if we do the clay court. So that's the one item.
Are there any other questions?
Comment.
I will point out that the responses we got of those 22, a number of them supported converting the clay court, but they said that was so they could play more pickleball. So of those 11 who say yes, that's basically why they say yes. And there are a couple that said, well, more tennis, so that would be fine. That would help them as well.
Good.
So we don't have a very good sample, but that's kind of the way it came out.
Go ahead, Rick.
So I think that the comments I fully agree with, that converting the clay court will benefit both. Actually, I think it'll benefit all three. Player capital, because it'll have a court more available for use at a regular level. Tennis players, because it will have more time that they would be able to reserve, and pickleball players, because I think it will enable court one to be more dedicated to pickleball. I think the big issue is whether it gets done by the town or by a private party. And there's obviously a cost difference there that is somewhere in a 2-to-1 ratio. If it's done by the town, my guess is the council would agree to use some, but not all, of the tennis fund to make that conversion. And pickleball players that want to enable that to happen could then make donations to the town dedicated to being used to convert that court. That's absolutely possible, and I think probably my best guess is that I don't know, I haven't talked to anybody, but my guess is the council would put in maybe $100,000 and the remainder would need to be put in by private individuals.
Due to prevailing wages well, I have a question for that, but.
Oh, the estimate's around $150,000. So it's about 2-to-1.
Yeah.
ratio.
No, I'm just saying, if the town donates, does that make it have to have the prevailing wage?
If the town puts any money into it
Okay.
at all, it has to have the prevailing wage.
And it almost, if it's doubling it, then,
It's doubling.
Okay.
So the alternative would be for, a private entity to manage that conversion, which probably means overseeing Saviano.
Yeah.
But it means you gotta raise the cost. So
Yeah.
maybe $75,000 to $100,000 has to be raised. So
From who and how long did that take?
anybody that wants to contribute, and it takes as long as it takes. But I have a question, Michael, is there any possibility that Player Capital would be in a position to manage Saviano if the funding came from donations?
Yeah, that's possible. I
Okay.
could definitely do that.
So that's a possibility.
okay.
I think that's a really good possibility, but it requires raising $75,000 to $100,000.
I guess if we get some donors together and they wanna explore this with the council or with staff, they can talk to the council and see if, what could be worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're making, I mean, yeah, if, I don't know the legal tax implications
Yeah.
of making a contribution, to, I mean, maybe it would be the Park Foundation, that would be tax deductible. And the Park Foundation could work with Player Capital to manage it, that's a possibility. If it were the town that were doing it, then clearly any contribution that those people made to the town is tax deductible, 100%.
You wanted, both of you had questions or?
Well, I think, I'm just what I'm hearing is that, it's unlikely that we're gonna do anything but change the court. And we have to have a number from somebody that we can live with, so we can say to the group that might give some money, that, oh, by the way, you have to raise $50,000, $75,000. You don't have to raise the whole thing, or maybe you do have to limit it, but you know, nobody's gonna do anything until they know how much they're gonna have to raise.
Yeah. Dorothy, did you have a comment?
No, my question is your question.
Oh, okay.
My question is, sorry to ask, why can't the town pay for 100% of it?
Well, I don't think, I'm just telling you, I wouldn't vote for it.
Oh, I see.
Because it would use up essentially all the tennis fund. And I wouldn't do that. The tennis fund exists to take care of the tennis courts. And converting that court is a benefit to tennis players, but I don't think that, my judgment is that the council probably wouldn't use all of it. And I think that there's people who will make donations. I've been told that. Well, whether it happens or not is a different issue. We know that from experience.
Right, exactly, and it took this long just to figure out that that was never gonna materialize.
The recommendation that this is the best thing to do, in my opinion, should include how much has to be raised and who will be raising it. And that should be part of the recommendation. Because if people are assuming that the town is gonna pay for all of it, then the rumor is just gonna go around that they're not, and some are gonna say they are. There should be a recommendation that this amount will come from the town tennis fund. It will take another amount of money raised by somebody, in a some kind of a thing. And that's what we recommend happen.
Okay.
And if we don't do the second half, the first half is just a guess.
Well, that unfortunately doubles the cost of the construction. Once the
Why?
town
Why?
contributes a dime,
They-
you have to use prevailing wage.
For the whole kit and caboodle.
That's right. It's a 2x difference.
oh,
So-
okay.
Unless the town just pays for safe design, and then the actual construction is paid for, you can't do that? No,
Not even that,
okay.
So what are we recommending? I'm totally confused.
well,
Well, we haven't made any recommendations,
yeah.
so there doesn't have to be a motion on this if there's not a consensus.
Well, I think we have a consensus that we can, that we, hopefully, as we've recommended, Don and I have recommended, that we do recommend to the council that there be a conversion. It's not our role to end up how you fund it. But I think we can spell out, we see two ways to do that, as Rick says. One is, just as we've taken the position on converting to pickleball courts, or building two pickleball courts, we say it may well be funded by individuals. We should first look at that, because if it can be done solely by them and managed by Michael or done through the foundation, then we have this great benefit. In fact, the irony is, if we had accepted the $100,000 that was offered for the conversion, that's what it was offered for the conversion. And we tried to use it for 2 new pickleball courts, and then it disappeared. So we're looking at something on the order, I think, and that's a good question, Bob, we would need, I would think, $100,000. I know, Michael, you've received numbers before. We talked about that. something on the order of, they range from 70,000 to 130,000. Is that kind of fair?
Yeah. I think that,
Yeah.
I think I remember 130 last time.
So if we're done with questions in this area,
Yeah.
why don't we move on to your next area?
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we're all in agreement
I
here.
think we may have actually finished the discussion as well.
Okay,
We're in
that's okay.
agreement that the town will not pay any money,
They could not pay any money to get the low price.
that's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so-
I think it's
so
what
our-
you said, it's not our responsibility to do the funding.
Why not?
Because it's our responsibility to make a recommendation to convert.
Somebody says that, but
Then
nobody,
whoever
Yeah.
give me,
they decide
we
to
can
have
choose
that-
not to.
I had no say for 15 years of paying for, and they can't.
You have a
the
say,
fund.
we don't,
I have no
in
say.
the motion, we don't have to have a definition of how it's gonna be funded. It's
It's
just
just
that we're
it's
in
a
favor of it or
recommendation.
not.
But we could certainly add that as part of our recommendation.
The reality is, the amount of money that looks like it would need to be raised privately would be about the same amount if it's managed by the town versus if it isn't. Because the council could decide to put more in than I think they'll decide to do. I just don't know, because I haven't talked to anybody about it. But assuming that council would agree to put up to $100,000 into it, if it's a town-managed event, it's gonna cost $150,000 to $200,000. So that would require raising $50,000 to $100,000 from individuals. If it's done privately and not through the town, it's gonna cost $70,000 to $100,000. So you'd have to raise $70,000 to $100,000. So it's about the same amount of money you have to raise either way.
So once the tennis fund is gone, what pays for the current tennis club that we? courts-
Revenue comes in every year. It's
It would have been gone.
$70,000 or so.
Is it
They're-
enough? I won't do all the courts.
Well, what do you need to do for the courts?
Well, the tennis fund wouldn't be.
Fill in the cracks.
Oh, but that's, I mean,
No, they're not saying they'll use, Rick is saying they will use less than half.
My projection is that we'd use about half, which is about $100,000 out of about 200. It's a little over 200. So there'd still be $100,000 left in.
Because I
just don't want
and we'll have
that,
more key holders, so that means more revenue.
I don't want that number to go to zero.
It won't, it
It won't.
doesn't sound like it will.
Okay.
What is the annual maintenance cost for tennis?
Pardon?
It's pretty low, but it's the capital cost that you drain the fund from. So I'm not worried at all, because, I mean, we did the resurfacing a few years ago, and we're already at 200K surplus, that's accumulated surplus. So we have strong key holder sales, so I'm not afraid that we're gonna run low at any point, really.
The other thing to remember is, I think if I read the budget right, there is $85,000 of revenue every year. This is the key holders
That
plus. Yeah, so
Okay.
I was even thinking you might do a loan. Something so that, I mean, you're gonna end up funding the whole thing that way. I'm a little concerned that if the city says they'll fund part of it, donors will say, well, thanks very much. Why should we contribute anything? If the city's prepared to do that, why does the city contribute more? You've got a fund, you've got a surplus, you've got all kinds of arguments.
So I don't wanna get into the strategy of what we should do. We're just gonna recommend one thing or the other.
Yeah, I think this is the critical item though, as Bob says. Okay, well, anyway, you don't want to stay here all night. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's other points you wanna, important considerations from the subcommittee that we wanna hear from.
Yeah, okay. So the last, and I don't mean Don, just please kick in, but the last issue is, even if we converted, there'd be some time before that would kick in, obviously, time to do that. If it turns out to kind of wait for people to donate, that'll take more time. And in fact, we get to the point where maybe nothing happens. So Don and I looked at, what are we gonna do if people really need more time on the court from the pickleball point of view? So pickleball, as we know, already has every morning and all day Sunday, and then the 2 afternoons from 4 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday. So he said, well, what more is available? Well, Michael has done something very imaginative, and he opens up the tennis courts for pickleball, for court one, for pickleball. And we asked him a year ago, could he do that on Saturday? Because that seemed to be the goal. And I noticed that he's opened up 2 Saturdays entirely, the whole afternoon for pickleball in last month, May the 1st, the last month I have full figures for. And 2 of the Saturdays were partially open. So that goal is there. And as our report points out, the problem is, how do you get the reservation system to work? Right now, they're opening up only a day before, and as we all know, to play pickleball, you don't just make the decision the day before. So the question is, we looked at this and we said, well, now what could be done? And the way to do this with the still use between pickleball and tennis is to simply change that reservation system a little to give enough advance timing for people to reserve. 7 days is when the tennis players work, have the ability. So some time less than that for pickleball to take and use the time otherwise available for tennis. And that's kind of where we stand right now. I'd hope people would come for comments, pickleball players, so we could ask them, how much lead time do you really need? And what times and what days do you think you need more playing? The comments that we've got basically are, I'd like more time. And by the way, I'd like a dedicated pickleball court on court one. A point we've seen ever since we did a survey. We did a survey, I think 3 years ago. That's exactly what they wanted. Pickleball players wanted court one, and the tennis players said, great, let's have them have a dedicated court and not touch tennis. So we've been at that all the time since then. So anyway, that's the proposal, is the one that you can see there, is that we would do that, and we'd ask Michael's input on what the right time would be to allow those pickleball reservations where they're not reserved for tennis.
So you had some pickleball people say they don't need as much time to plan to play pickleball than tennis players?
No, I think the input from Dawn is, and pickleball players is 1 day is too short.
Okay, because I was gonna say, what would be the big difference?
Right, if you
between-
got 4 people, you're gonna arrange
Exactly,
typically.
I wouldn't be that different from tennis.
Yeah.
So let me jump in a little bit on this. I think Walt's done a lot of terrific work on identifying some possibilities to make the scheduling better. I think the challenge is what we just talked about, which is to organize 4 people's schedules typically takes, when we're talking about only a reservation as opposed to a drop-in system, I think most people need much more than a day. I don't know whether it's a week or 4 days or 3 days, but I don't think, and related to that, I'm not sure that people are monitoring the reservation system to see when, in fact, there's been an adjustment and whether somebody can slip in and get some extra time that way. So I'm not as enthusiastic about this being that helpful at the end of the day. And secondly, I'd say one of the things I found pretty interesting in all the comments that we got is that there's a lot of comments from tennis players saying that they are concerned about additional pickleball time, which I understand. And what we're talking about here, to the extent we adjust hours from tennis on court one to pickleball on court one, there's a concern that the tennis players will get less time as a result. And that creates a concern in my mind, which relates to the next point, which is, I think this is not, as indicated by the comments that we've got, which come from both tennis and pickleball players, about wanting more time. I think and just as by way of example, the comment from John Sobrato I thought was very interesting. He basically said, hey, from a tennis perspective, we should always have 3 tennis courts available, meaning that at least the other 3 should be pickleball and instruction for tennis or pickleball. And so what comes through in my mind pretty clearly is that the tennis players are asking for more time as well, which in my mind raises the same issue I raised last time at the last meeting, which is I think the big issue here is we need, in my mind, to adjust the agreement with Player Capital to not have sort of carte blanche on using whatever number of tennis courts they need at any time. I think that's what's creating the problem, and it's not tennis versus pickleball. I think it's how much time we've allocated to an outside third party, and I think it's hurting our tennis and pickleball key holders. And I think it's a disservice to Atherton residents and to those key holders that we haven't made that adjustment. I think that's where we need to focus.
Well, 2 points on that. First, if you look carefully at the comments by these tennis players, 3 of them say, we don't want any more pickleball. They're not saying we want more tennis, they're saying we don't want any more pickleball. That's really the comment there. I mean, Sobrato is one of the few, I think, or maybe the only one to say we want 3 courts. Nobody else said that.
I don't think that's true, Walt. I think if you look at Judy Green's comment, for example, she said it's very hard to get a tennis court, and please don't allocate more time to pickleball at the expense of tennis.
If I can conclude, it seems like the opinions all over in terms of some people want more, some people want less. So I don't think that we're going to have a vote among the commenters. Have one prevailing.
But I think that the overall takeaway is that there isn't enough, which somebody said in one of these emails, is that overall there isn't enough court time for tennis and pickleball.
So I'll get to you, Bob, but I do want to ask the subcommittee, what is your recommendation exactly? Because it's not very clear to me if we have something we could vote on, but.
There's another issue in terms of getting a court when you're playing doubles. You have to get 4 people that can play at the same time. Okay, and so you will hear the people complain that they can't find the court that they want at a particular time, when an hour later, the court's available.
Yeah.
Well, that's happened to us, my squad that plays. So we want this court, but this guy can't play at that time. He can only play at this time. So we've got that comes into it too, and it's, yes, I'm not getting enough courts. But it's only I'm not getting them when I want them. If you want one, you can get one, but it might not be all 4 can get there at the same time.
Isn't the plan of converting the clay court to a hard court, adding a tennis court? Because it sounds to me like the clay court is almost empty 90% of the time, if not more. And so if we convert, that adds a tennis court that could then increase the use of key holders.
And are there specific times that are specifically congested for tennis and pickleball holders? Where, well, I mean, I guess for tennis players, where they want more time versus, just general, like it's just not enough time. Because maybe we just focus on those time slots rather than say let's free a court versus let's free a court at those times.
We know nothing from pickleball. The only request we've made is we'd like to take over all of court 1. And that's it.
Okay.
We'd like more time. And that's why we had hoped pickleball players could be here to actually give us an example. I've looked at the times that used in the afternoons by pickleball players. And of all the times available, which is all day Sunday and the Tuesday and Thursday, there's about 3 hours a time. In other words, for 12 courts or 15 or 16 courts, they're used about 3 times in the afternoon. So I can't really understand what other times they would want, other than, of course, the 5 days, 4 days a week that they don't have 4 o'clock on. And that's why I view this as a trial. Let's set it up this way. Let's see what happens. We can always move some other way. But I think we should set this and try it at, say, 4 days before the time, not used by tennis, to be used for pickleball. Michael, what do you think of that? 4 days or 5 days in advance? And Bob, you know that too. And do you think the tennis players will have made their arrangements 7 days, 6 days in advance?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so. That's what our reservation system does.
I'm exactly 7 days.
Right.
You can always find mine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in there the first day that we can get in.
I don't discount Don's comments, but we've seen those for 2 years.
But wait,
we-
let Michael answer. If right now it's a 1 day thing, you make an adjustment 1 day ahead. If you were to make that 4 or 5 days ahead, would that work?
I mean, it could. I mean, there are definitely tennis players that sign up a couple days before, so it would affect those people. But you know, if you were at 3 to 4 days, probably wouldn't affect too many people.
And we would tell them too, right, that the policy is changing instead of the day
Right.
before, so they would know. Don, how do you feel about that? If they move from 1 day to 4 to 5 days earlier, will they open up the reservations for pickleball?
I think that it can be somewhat helpful to pickleball. I think it might be somewhat aggravating to some tennis players. And I hate to be a broken record, but I think we're on the wrong issue. I think this is helpful. I think it's a Band-Aid. I think the bigger issue is we have given 4 courts to an outside entity that has an incentive from an economic perspective to use as many courts as possible because they have a fixed price. And I don't see that we have to keep this exact arrangement in place forever. I think we need to adjust it, and the world has changed over the last 10 years. We've got more demand, we've got more key holders, and we're not serving these folks. That's my biggest point.
Well, again, so we've heard that argument now for 2 years. It's a very legitimate argument if we were starting again. We have a contract, the town has a contract with Player Capital. That contract goes for 2 more years, as long as it is extended. It does not come up for renegotiation this September. It's simply an extension. We've had this arrangement now and it's worked fine. And as I say, with this adjustment, my view is everything will work fine. We don't need to take that action, and I don't think we legitimately could take that action. But I understand the point. We have 3 different entities that use these courts. So my view is, for now, let's try to do the advanced reservations, whatever Michael says, 4 or 5 days in advance, and let's see what happens. We got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Indeed, one might even argue we should open up the Tuesday and Thursday afternoons to tennis if they're not taken for pickleball in advance. But at least I'd try the additional pickleball first year.
Okay, are there any other questions on this one before we move on to, I think, the last issue?
Well, I think
We'll have more discussion. on
think
this
we've
one.
covered those issues now.
Like the adjustments to.
That's what Don's view,
Okay,
he
but-
added that, and he just explained why.
Okay, so is there a committee, I know Don provided his opinion, but I don't know if that suffices as a report, but.
Well, I think it,
Okay, so you have nothing more to add on?
I think we've had the
Okay.
report. The question is, what will our committee support?
Okay,
I think we have
so
two
there's-
items taken care of. We have a third.
we have a third, and then the adjustments is also kind of floating issue. And
Well, that's the same issue.
Well, yeah, we can discuss that
Yeah.
if the committee so likes. So should we go, open it up for public comment, and then we'll go issue by issue, and then we can discuss if we have a consensus that we can recommend to council? Does that sound nice? Okay, we can open up to public comment. I don't know, Michael, you wanna go first? You wanna wait for people to, if you have anything you wanna tell the committee?
No, I think that makes sense to try to do the conversion from the clay court to the hard court.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best decision.
Is there anything online? Nothing online. Okay. Okay, let's go one by one. Clay court conversion. Is there any further discussion, or we have a recommendation, and if we want, we can include a recommendation funding by the tennis fund if we so think that's the right way to get it funded. Do I have a motion
I move to convert the clay court,
with funding from the tennis fund?
or those two separate things.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in, any other debate, any other discussion?
So this is just to convert, nothing.
Yeah, we're gonna go one by one, so I'm gonna go for the clay court conversion, then I'm gonna have the second issue, which is the hard handball court conversion.
I would amend that to say in part or whole by the tennis fund, because I think we've heard it's not gonna come in whole. And are we recommending that we drain the tennis fund to do the conversion?
So, and I thought we were separating the two.
Yeah, we're.
Oh, you wanna separate? Okay,
Yeah, I-
so one is, okay, that's fine.
I don't, that's what I'm asking.
If
and then-
you made the motion, do you accept the amendment where you wanna say separate it out as a separate? You can
I
just
just think
say,
the funding is gonna, is, if we could just get it approved that we are all in
Okay,
favor of
okay.
the conversion.
we'll leave the funding up to the
Yeah.
council. Okay,
Exactly.
that's fine,
For
that's
now,
fine.
that's-
Because they're gonna have the end say so anyway, so that then.
So through the chair,
Yes,
just to member Robertson's comment, you can have one motion about conversion, and then if you want to discuss about potentially a second recommendation regarding funding, or that you don't want to make a recommendation regarding funding, that's fine. But I think that way you kind of have it clean,
Yeah.
that folks are supportive of the conversion. And then if you want to have a conversation about the in whole or in part or fully donated, have that conversation too.
okay, so the motion's been amended. Do I need a second for that? Or
I don't think it's been amended.
No,
I think
Oh.
it's just she's saying she had a motion in support of converting the
Converting
clay.
the clay court
Okay,
to a hard court.
That's it.
that's it. Okay. And then I think Bob, you seconded.
second.
Okay, so any other discussion of this motion? If not, we can take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Do we need to do a roll call, or is it?
Because he's online, yes.
Oh, okay.
and then Robert points out in his report that we really don't have any jurisdiction over funding. But I don't think that stops us from.
We can make any
making a
recommendation.
recommendation.
We can make a recommendation, world peace.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
But that's later.
Well, roll call.
Roll call.
Yes, member Hunter, Chair Key,
Aye.
member Keller,
Aye.
member Merrill's not here, member Rozier,
Here, yes.
Vice Chair Robinson,
Aye.
and Chair Robertson, or member Robertson.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We can move on to funding, or we can talk about a motion for converting the handball.
Let's do handball courts first, and then that's off the table.
That's your prediction of the future? Okay, do I have a motion?
No,
Yeah, right.
I amend that we table the handball court, but that's a one
Okay,
issue.
well, if no one makes a motion, then it's tabled, so.
Well, really?
Well, you can make the motion.
Yeah, my motion is that we continue our support for two pickleball courts to be constructed on the handball court, subject to the ability to raise the funds.
But that's not our responsibility to raise the funds, correct?
So that's why we take a position that we continue to support the construction. We did it before, I don't see why we wouldn't do it again.
Do I have a second?
I actually
I'll second.
I think it's gonna have to be, done eventually anyway. I know that right now we all think we can hardly just get the clay court converted, that's taken forever, but we are eventually gonna need them, is the prediction, I think, that we're seeing. Anyway, I second.
I'm in favor, but I mean, I don't consider it a priority versus
I
the
agree,
clay court
it's not a
conversion,
priority.
so.
Well, we can see that, but the
Yeah.
question, we've been asked.
Yeah.
We've been asked to opine on this issue.
Correct, but I just want to make that clear in case, for the record, so that when the council sees it, they know that, okay, they're in favor, but
Right.
the other stuff is more important. So we have to fund the clay court conversion first before we think about doing the.
And would you like to add that to the motion, which would be fine with me?
Sure, that the clay court conversion gets priority
And further studies are done as to need.
and further studies I've done it too. Well, that's your amendment, so if Walt accepts that, then that's fine. So we have a first and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, roll call, I guess.
Member Hunter,
Aye.
Chair Key,
Aye.
Member Keller,
Aye.
Member Robertson,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Robinson,
Aye.
Member Rozier.
Aye.
Okay, there are two remaining issues. One is there's three. One is the funding for the clay court conversion. The other one is figuring out hours with player capital. And then what is the other one?
The hours for pickleball.
Possible changing hours for pickleball. So do I have a motion or anyone want to make a motion? I mean, if I can give my opinion in terms of the player capital hours, is I feel like this is something that staff and Michael and maybe the pickleball subcommittee can work out together and figure out, maybe there's some times in which the key holders really want to use the courts, and if Michael can, is okay with just 3 courts at that time, then we work that out instead of creating hard and fast rules. I think that's much easier for everyone to work with. If there's a clear time where there's a lot of demand, I feel that, let's give the key holders the time, and, hopefully it's not a time where it's Michael sees a lot of demand, but if it is, let's figure out how to make it work. I think that's much better than dictating sometimes and forcing it upon someone. That's just my opinion. I think we should try first doing that if we can.
Well, how about part of that simply being the motion that we encourage player capital in the reservation system to open up courts otherwise reserved for tennis to pickleball, if those courts are available 4 days in advance of the time.
Okay. Is there any discussion? So the motion is opening up from 24 hours before to 4 days before the times moved, allowing pickleball players to reserve the pickleball court, court one, when it's normally used for tennis. No further discussion, so I guess we'll have a roll call vote.
Okay, and Member Hunter,
Aye.
Chair Key,
Aye.
Member Keller,
Aye.
Member Robertson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robinson,
Aye.
Member Rozier.
Aye.
Okay.
I'd like to make it clear too, kind of responding to Don's point. I regard these as trial. There's nothing to stop us from changing this.
Yes, yeah,
If
this is just a
relevant
recommendation.
for pickleball, then we're gonna do something about it. Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to go to council, because I think staff
No, we can work
understands.
this out.
Yeah, staff can work it out with
Exactly.
Michael.
It'll either work, and improve things, or
Well, are there any other motions about funding or anything else?
Yeah, the one motion I would make is that we engage in discussions with Player Capital with respect to defining their court use as part of the extension that is otherwise on the table for September.
Are you proposing a specific amount of time or a specific number of courts and times, or just that we ask staff to negotiate that for the next contract? Just that,
that we ask staff together with our committee to engage in those discussions over the next 2 months as part of the evaluation of the extension.
So if there's a consensus, we can just ask staff to do that. I don't think we need a motion, but we can, if,
Yeah, I would oppose that, because I don't think at a time of an extension, you go renegotiate your deal. We've had exactly the usage of the court now for 3 years under this new contract. And I understand Don's point, because he's a good pickleball advocate, he wants more time. And he also says for tennis, you know, if we cut back on player capital, obviously it's more court time. We're talking about reducing player capital's time by as much as 25%. The proposal was to end up negotiating so that player capital loses the right to one of its courts all the time. And to me, that's just the wrong way to go at this.
But is there a
No
different,
question of having a discussion, but I don't think we
Yeah.
should require this. I don't think it's appropriate at the time of an extension as opposed to a opening up of a contract.
but what if a compromise was reached that Michael would be in agreement to, and we could try to make everyone, it probably wouldn't be perfect, but there might be something, Michael, I'm not speaking for you, I'm just saying that, to Don's point, have a discussion about it. If you can't come to an agreement, then legally or whatever, per the contract, you can't change it, but at least have a conversation about it.
And especially since then you have these 2 months to evaluate the reservation system, you'll get a better knowledge of the court use and the court needs.
And let me add to that there's nothing in the agreement now that defines how much court time is allocated to player capital. There was something originally that said 3 courts on Saturday and 4 courts the rest of the week. But I think pretty regularly player capital uses 4 courts on Saturday, which I think is inconsistent with what I think people think is the arrangement. But the actual arrangement is not written down anywhere. And I think everybody would benefit by having more definition to it.
I feel this can be probably negotiated directly with player capital and staff, and if there is.
Yeah, from staff's perspective, we hear the concern.
Yeah.
And we'll have some sort of we need to have some sort of conversation with Michael anyway on that extension. And what I would add to that is if the recommendation ultimately is regarding a permanent, at some point, a permanent conversion of Court 1, that kind of changes the whole dynamic of the setup anyway. And so we need to figure out what that's going to look like. You say there's the today issue and then there's the tomorrow issue.
Yeah.
And so I think if we have a conversation and plot it out, I think it's probably going to be more beneficial
And
outside of.
things are gonna change maybe a little bit too, because the original agreement is really tennis courts.
Yes.
But now I think Michael can do pickleball as well, and so does that count, like, if he gives a pickleball lesson, is that 1 court, or is that, you know?
Or you don't.
Yeah, so, so I would say I would favor flexibility.
Yes,
Just
and so
talking through.
like I say, from staff, we hear the concern.
Okay.
And we can on the side talk with the subcommittee.
Okay.
So if Michael would get fair court, which was proposed by, then he would pay less.
Well, I think we're gonna try to work it out before we go to the contract.
Okay.
I think we're not gonna have a formal motion.
No, I don't think we're gonna, I think it's best more
Yes,
discussion.
for discussion, not a motion.
But that's a very good point.
My discussion is just that he basically X amount of money, and we have to realize that if he gets fewer courts and he makes less money, he's gonna pay less money. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Is there anything else on this topic, or can we move on?
The FOB thing, do we need to vote on any of that whole?
The funding, does it, if you want
Okay.
if we want to have recommend the council spend the tennis fund on the clay court conversion, yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Not for now.
No, if no one has a motion, then we can move on.
Good.
Okay, see, We can work it out like normal people. Okay, what's next? Okay, 5C. Are you done, Robert?
Unless you need me for
Probably not.
the eucalyptus bench.
Are you part of that, or Will can handle it?
I think we'll get
Will,
it on.
I can handle it. Thank you for bearing with us. I'm sure you'll be
I'm
back.
surprised that we didn't turn this into a watch party, but,
Oh, you mean USA, who won?
well, is it over? I know that they were winning 2-0. They won 2-0? Okay, now there's no point in leaving, right?
So as far as updates for the park playground is still under construction. You guys can see it out there, they're putting in some of the objects and everything like that. I think right now, tentative completion date is gonna be the end of August. But they are working on it. Park bathrooms are still in the permit phase, so there is no tentative start date or anything like that. The third item up here, the eucalyptus benches, I put a form in there, kind of what they would look like. If the committee would like them to be part of the park, there are 6-foot benches and 10-foot benches. Those are roughly what they would look like, at a cost of $1,200 to $2,000. I know there's some talk about where to put them. That doesn't need to be decided, but if you guys do want to have 1, 2, whatever it is, I just need to know if that's something you guys want, so we can move that on to our arborist.
This is not coming from Atherton Arts Foundation, just to remove me from that hat right now. I have a daughter who is a Marine, and we have nothing in honoring our veterans. And there are several other people I know who have been in the military or children have been in the military. And I've just gently talked to a few people about this, nothing in writing, nothing concrete, about the idea of a veteran memorial out in the Redwood Grove, out along the walk that backs up against Lane Place. And I mentioned it to my daughter and I showed her these pictures. And I thought just a eucalyptus bench like this would be really cool with a plaque embedded in a rock. And she got me in touch with a gentleman who can get through the DOD, the emblems to put on it. And she liked the idea of these benches that are shown here, because she says everyone who's ever been in the service has run over a lot of logs. And it would mean something to them. And so my question, Will, is when do you need to know that this is viable?
I need a decision if you guys want the benches, probably tonight. If that's
Tonight?
something you want, what you want to do with them, I think can be done at a later date, because it's gonna
Okay.
take some time. for
It will cost the Parks and Rec Department, I would hope, nothing.
No, this is gonna come out of our tree budget for the benches inside of our public works.
So I don't understand, if I get this Veterans Committee going and they raise money, then we pay you back for them? I don't understand.
Well, we're just asking if you guys want to have some of these benches at the park.
There is a donation mechanism that you can, for benches, I don't know,
Yeah, that's for like the park benches.
Yeah.
Those are the nice benches. kind of like
This is
the
something we have to
picnic
set up
table.
of when they take down the tree that we do it, so we need to know ahead
Oh,
of
okay, so
time
you
if
need
we
to
want the
know
benches. Yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah, so once they do cut down the eucalyptus, they can, either they're gonna be
Okay,
cutting it up and get rid of it, or they're gonna utilize it.
But there's a budget to do them, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so if you wanna
that's-
have a couple of benches, we can get them done.
So that's one question. The second one is if you want the dedication, then
right,
so
right.
you could donate and then you could work it out with the town
Okay,
exactly what it is and how much it costs.
okay.
It's sort of custom because I know that they do have a bench donation amount, but it's not usually like a plaque. It's usually like a little placard.
Well, there are many in rocks that are like
Yeah,
this big. And to make it viable there's different options for veterans things. If you use a true military, the emblem of the different military services, it must be registered through the Department of Defense as a veteran memorial. They do not add any money, but with that, if it is registered, so it goes into a veteran registry, this is how I understand it. It becomes published as a veteran memorial in the country. And then we can use those plaques. We would have to pay for the metal,
But I think what
the
he's saying,
bronze.
I think what he's saying is, we'll figure all that later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's-
there's two
I-
issues. One is we accept the benches and the
Right,
second is.
and I just think it would be cool to have this plaque and then these benches kind of scattered around it out in the Redwood Grove.
Yeah, I just, there's a little complication with, because the
Well,
town has
see-
never done this before, so.
Absolutely.
So it's a little bespoke in terms of the amount and then also the little bit of bureaucracy.
A little bit of bureaucracy.
Yeah, a little.
So does this need a motion?
I need to know how many benches you guys wanna have.
I don't think we need a motion, just a consensus.
Just a consensus
Unless,
of what you want, and then I'll take it back, and then of course discuss
Say
it
yes
with
to
Robert.
yeah, benches are good.
Because it's good to use the, why not use
Do
the
you,
wood?
do you have a number of benches that you want?
No, because I was told I couldn't do anything about it till tonight. And so this, I did not know I had to have a total number tonight. You just said.
You don't have to have a number.
No, I know, I just,
It doesn't have
I need
anything
to
to
have
do
like just
with-
an
this
idea,
is-
I'm gonna
He
tell
just
them
says-
yes.
No, no,
just says-
we have to decide,
Okay, he just said a number must come tonight.
but
A
not.
number of
not-
benches,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
not a
from-
number for the amount.
right, I
Yeah.
understand the number of benches.
Right,
Yeah.
but nothing to do with the
Right,
veterans.
right.
We just have to decide.
Yeah, so then just have to make a recommendation of how many benches you want, so I can clear that with our arborist and with Rob.
And how many are the choices? Is it
Yeah.
1, 2, 3?
It's what you guys think.
Well, how many benches come from one tree?
Yeah,
I don't, I'm sure a lot of them, but they are, $2,000 or
So
$1,200.
you basically says all come from the tree.
Yeah, so we will obviously have we have a tree fund to cut down and trim the trees, so we're gonna take some of that for this, so I would say it's not gonna be a huge number or anything like that, whatever you guys come up with, I'll bring it back for approval. But I just wanted to get an idea if this is something you guys want.
So thoughts on the number?
Where they're going, the numbers, depending on where they're going.
We're not sure yet, but we have ideas where they could go. I mean,
the shorter or the big longer?
we can discuss that too.
There's
Four
five-
big ones
five
and
in
two
the
short
picture.
ones.
The shorter ones look more practical to me, but
There's 5 in the picture.
Yeah, well, that's just the picture.
Okay.
So, I mean, I like them, they
Yeah.
put some in the children's garden, they look nice.
oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna see what these eucalyptus benches look like, go through the children's garden, because there's a lot of.
Okay.
But we're gonna have to vote on it before you can.
And I would say if it's $2,000, we ought to find out what the costs were, because the library bought those benches. And there's a supplier, who I met when we opened up that garden, who provided them, and I don't know what the cost.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the cost is. So this is the cost of reusing the eucalyptus tree we're gonna be cutting down, so.
This is our tree.
So I'm in favor of at least one. I don't have an idea yet where to put them, but it's a nice, change from the normal benches and it's something unique. Kind of like, it's almost like a piece of art in a sense. So,
We have a couple benches in the garden right
Yeah.
off the pavilion
Yep.
that came from the
Yeah.
camphor tree, right?
Right next to
There was a
the,
big camphor tree in the middle of that
Near
garden.
Jennings Pavilion.
if Jenny's.
Yep, there's
Are
a
they
couple,
kind of this type,
yeah,
just long?
that are just.
Yeah, it's just like these.
I don't know if they're eucalyptus, but they're just.
No,
long.
they're the
Yeah.
they're from
They're
the
the
camphor
camphor
tree.
Camphor,
So
sorry.
the same
Sorry.
design.
What
Yeah,
would
they
you
look
think,
cool.
6 feet or 10 feet?
Well, 6 feet is only this table.
Right,
So like 3 people,
and 10
And
feet is
best.
your whole table.
about 5.
Okay, so here's two of us
Two
sitting,
feet per butt.
sitting here and here's the end of the table.
How about 2 short
but-
ones
but-
and 1 long
But
one?
you can,
Well,
you
if
can sit on the
kids,
edge.
Yes, but how many people wanna sit on the edge?
Okay.
So, like how many people sit in a church?
You sit on the edge.
I want to sit on the edge, you sit on the edge.
What were you saying?
I like hers,
I'm
too short
suggesting
and
2
long.
short ones and 1 long one.
I'm fine with anything over 1. 1 or more. Two short ones and one long one? Okay. Any other suggestions? Or is that fine? Does that seem reasonable?
That's
And-
fine, yeah. I'll bring it back to arborist and then we
One of
can,
these
and
or
if
one
she
of
says
these.
that she doesn't need a number or some changes, I'll put it back on the
Okay.
agenda for a moment.
Yeah.
I did have two questions. You said end of August, the playground would be done.
That, right
So
now.
we decided how many we have.
And the bathrooms, if they're not started by soon, then I would wait until after.
It would be
actually
three.
get out.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, right now it's in the.
Oh,
permit
you just
phase,
said
so it's not-
three,
So-
is that
it's gonna
all?
start before August.
Okay.
We're having three benches?
Yeah, that's the current recommendation, but if you have something else,
Well, I don't know the space it's going in. Depends on
We
the
don't, we
space
haven't
it's going in.
figured that out yet. We're just trying to tell them how to.
he just needs to know a number
Just
right
needs to know how
now.
many
There's a
Is-
number
can-
without knowing where they're going, okay.
We'll
Can the
figure that
number be
out later.
changed?
I'll talk to the arborist.
Yeah,
about
can it be
yes.
lessened?
Yeah, just right now, I just wanna let her know, yes, we're interested, so
Yes.
that when they do,
Yes,
because I don't even know
we're
when the
interested.
tree's coming down.
Yes, I would say yes, we're interested.
So, right now, that's fine, and then if there's a number needed, I will find out.
We'll get a couple people and I've got a couple people who are interested in maybe being on the veterans committee and we'll walk it.
Okay.
But either way, they're
If you
paid
guys
for
are
from the
interested,
tree
we'll-
fund and we know we can have them, regardless of whether somebody donates or whatever.
Okay.
Well, I missed the comment about the event manager. Do we have a contract now? I saw you did a walkthrough with event manager.
Yeah, we have the contract signed, keys are made, I don't know when the start date's gonna be yet, so I'm hoping that it's gonna be very soon, so I'll be able to put them on the September agenda for you guys.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything else on this item? If not, we can move on to. I've lost my things. Whatever's next.
The fiscal
Our
calendar,
calendar for the year.
Calendar, okay.
just need approval, I pretty much kept it
So
pretty much the same as last year.
we are, so in September, we're gonna move. So Michael is normally September, but can we move him to October so that we can have the caterer in September?
Okay.
That way we don't have, because there's a lot of stuff going on with the tennis and football program, so we might have a robust discussion of that.
Yeah.
As well as for the caterer, so.
I'm sorry, what would we have in September instead?
Peter,
The caterer,
Oh,
unless
yeah.
you wanna move it.
Rather than Michael as
Yes,
well. Okay.
because I believe we're gonna have a robust discussion on both,
Yeah.
right? So we might as
Oh,
well.
that's good.
Split it
That's
up.
good, okay.
And then the mid-year budget, review, maybe just rename that to, kind of fiscal year look back and year-to-date going on, just, we'll talk with, Robert about just, cause I realized that we never have kind of a look back.
Okay.
And then he can tell us progress of different projects, and we can then start thinking about our, CIP discussion after that. Yeah, that's all I had for changes. You need our approval or?
I'll make the
I'll make
changes.
changes, okay. And then next item is the yearly goals. So last year we had, trying to remember the pickleball tennis, the Jennings Pavilion, well, facility improvements, I think that's pretty much concluded. And I can't remember what is the third thing that we had.
I think the Merrill Barn.
The Merrill Bar, okay.
oh, I think the fountain was on in there, but that wasn't just getting improvements.
I think it was just general improvements over at my facilities. So I think the facility improvements are sort of done. We did the lighting and all that.
Well, except the sound is so,
Yeah, has anything been done about the sound?
I have not got an update from, Anthony about that.
Yeah, cause I even noticed when I held an art class upstairs in the main house, it all echoes.
Oh, because of the hardwood.
Well, the vinyl, the plastic.
I think until the town spends the budget to,
Yeah.
well,
it-
and
it's
that's kind of different too, because it's the main house rather than.
Right, it's more important in the pavilion,
Yes,
because I've heard a
so-
lot of people talk about
I
that.
think there's a plan, but I'm not sure how we could weigh in as a committee, because town already has it on.
Well, and the main house is used so seldom, like once a month at best.
Yeah.
It's not much.
but I do think we've had complaints about the sound system
Yes.
in Jennings.
Yes. Yes.
And if we wanna rent the place out, we gotta fix that sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed. No updated equipment. Because when we did a sound system for the veterans, I paid some guys to bring all their own equipment because this was so obsolete.
Their own one.
So for the yearly goals, is there any suggestions for what we should focus on this upcoming fiscal year?
We can
Sound
never
system.
give up on pickleball in town.
Oh, okay, it's the never ending. Sure, we can,
Gonna outlive us.
that's one.
I think of the pickleball.
Should we add the caterer as another one?
Which one?
The caterer,
The caterer for sure.
okay, because we'll evaluate kind of the facilities and
When you say the caterer, you mean?
the event manager, yeah.
Right.
Use one term.
Yeah, we use the old term, yeah.
Yeah,
Event manager.
the event manager.
In this is like redoing the historic molding around the water tower, is that part of this? And is it also part of, like painting the outside of the buildings?
So
Or in pretty bad
I would
shape?
say if there are one or more members of the committee that wants to make that their focus for the year and come back every month with a
Uh-huh.
report
Uh-huh.
and kind of stay on top of
Okay.
it, then yes, we can add
And
that.
then, when I was walking around, I noticed like the stairs that go into the main house, the concrete ones, where the hill doesn't quite match it, is it crumbling underneath there? I mean, that's something that I don't know if it needs to be addressed or if it's just, looks like it's structural, it doesn't look structurally sound, but it really is just because there's dirt in there. But that's something I think that needs to be addressed, especially earthquake.
Okay, I think we
After
have,
Venice away,
I think we have two items for the yearly goals. One is the event manager, and then the other one is the pickleball.
Well, let's put it back on the Merrill Barn too, please.
You want to make the Narrow Barn your focus?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay,
There's a tremendous opportunity there.
okay. So we'll have three then. Anything else that people want to suggest? If not, then we'll move on to Brightview.
USA is in your pamphlet, but you don't have any questions?
So the comment I would make is the Brightview has got the DG paths. They only talk about debris. I was over there, no rain, but the watering system on the grass makes mud out of the DG. This is the one that's parallel, just to Watkins. And we struggled with this before, but it's really impassable. I mean, what it does is force people to go over on the grass, and as we're looking about putting more DG in and taking out the asphalt, the one benefit of the asphalt is it's safer in the sense that it doesn't get wet and muddy and doesn't require that same upkeep. So we've debated this before as to whether they put in the DG properly or not, but it's still an issue that needs to be considered.
I think they're gonna keep the asphalt where it is now. There's not gonna be any more DG added.
Really, I think it's in the
Yeah,
budget for
no,
more
we're
DG.
not gonna go further, we're gonna end up trying to use the asphalt still and just, fix the cracks and slow it over. But yes, the drainage along Watkins and a couple other areas are what's a concern.
Any other comments about the QSA?
Yeah, are they gonna complete trimming the deadwood and trimming the ivy,
What area are you talking about?
all around by the main house? There's still they got about, between half and 2/3 of the deadwood out of those trees, there's branches still kind of falling.
Yeah, I'll follow up with them.
And then there's still ivy growing in junipers. But the ivy over by the main house, if it was trimmed and neat and tidy, it would be okay. I'm not a fan of weed whacking things, I'm a fan of pulling out so it doesn't grow back, because when things are just weed whacked, it intensifies the growth of the roots, and so it comes back stronger. And I noticed they like to weed whack things, and that doesn't solve the problem, it increases the problem. And there are still some Texas privets that the birds have planted that were never intentionally meant to be, that are being shaped into trees, which should be taken out with the root. And also little suckers of them coming out that are gonna be trees in a year and a half if they're not dug out by the roots. Not just trimmed and cut, but things gotta be taken out by the roots or it comes back twice as big, twice as strong. And also that row of, between the main house and Jenny pavilions of the boxwood, there's some that's this much higher than the other, and then it's down low, and then about 20 feet later, there's another chunk high. Why is it all just cut the same? I think it looks stupid. It's like they tried to do this effect, but they've missed it. In most places, just even it off at the lowest point, so it looks nice and trim and neat, and it will all grow back on the same healthy plane.
While we move on to the Park Foundation report.
Frank?
Frank, go.
I think he would probably ask or comment on, has the algae been dealt with in the fountain, and then.
The fountain itself right now is out of commission.
Oh, no.
So we've run into a couple of problems over the last month. We just put in some signs today to remind people that it is not a play area. So we'll put some signs in that finally came in. Other issue we're having right now is the pump motor and filter have been clogged and broken because of debris being thrown into the fountain. We
So
just
that-
found a whole bunch of stakes and different things, throwing stuff in
And
there, so.
birds.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to get a replacement pump and filter and try to repair it, get it
And
back
then
on the road.
what about that little fence that was gonna be put up?
Yeah, that's still under consideration, we haven't picked out anything for that, but yeah, for right now, we have a couple signs up, just reminding people not to go inside the fountain or let their kids play in the fountain, and then obviously gotta deal with the issue of people throwing stuff.
Just tell them it's contaminated water. We told you it's contaminated water.
Well, as I told Will, I was over there, 2 weeks ago, and there were kids splashing in that fountain.
Yeah, little toddlers coming
And
back from nursery
I-
school.
They saw me looking at it, and one of the parents said, "What's the problem? There's no sign, and there's no fence, and it's a warm day." And so that's when I said to Will, we gotta have something over there. So that's why we have a couple signs. Now, I'm not sure the 4-year-old can read the sign very well, but in any case, hopefully they're with parents who will. So, and that's the issue with the foundation, of course, is they want to know how their donation's doing. So that answers the question. Thank you, Dorothy.
Okay, that's just how Frank sitting right here would ask those questions.
Don't they have those robots now that can, they can speak to you if they see something like.
Get away,
Away from the fountain, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, anything else on the Park Foundation?
Have we approved the fence around the
We
fountain?
have not. So I can
Oh,
put that
I
on
thought
the agenda,
we
if we wanna
did.
approve something, and get some samples and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah,
Try to
yeah.
figure something out.
Yeah, for
It seems
September.
like if you're having to replace the pump because people are throwing stuff in there, it ought to be kind of stopped. You're not gonna.
I don't know if the
people
fence
aren't
is
gonna
gonna
not
help
get
with
their
that
water
part of it,
because
because kids
it's
are gonna
not.
throw things, but I mean, yeah. It would be.
It's just, it's an attractive nuisance, we have to admit that, but anything that would help deter.
So I don't know if the foundation has opinion of what should a sign be there, or should we have the fence? We
I
can bring,
think I already looked at this, and signs and fence is what was
Is it okay?
decided. I'm
Okay.
surprised we don't have anything yet
So-
for proposal.
why don't we bring it forward for the next meeting, if you could find some fences and some sign language that we could, I don't know if we need to vote on it, but just bring it back and we can decide if that's what we want to do. Okay, anything else from the Park Foundation?
On the, no, not on the foundation. On the division report, I think I heard that 2 or 3 of the locks are still broken on the tennis courts. Does that make any sense? Well,
We have, I mean, we've been repairing them as we go, trying to repair stuff, but yeah, I think there's still some that can be jimmied open and stuff. like that.
okay.
There's 3 that are unlocked.
But
Number
Robert
2.
was looking at maybe using some kind of key
I
card.
know that was part of what the pickleball committee was talking about
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but I don't think anything's been decided with that, so.
Okay.
You know, on that note, this might be in that general category. The bulletin board, for lack of a better term, on the tennis court is a mess and decaying and falling apart. And then there's also one on a stake in the vicinity of the picnic benches and the.
There's
of the
one
playground,
that's at
and
the
that's
North
also a mess
Meadow.
and decrepit, and they have old, literature in them that's.
They're all updated, I update them,
Oh,
so
you
they're
have
all
them?
updated, every
Well,
time
so I
that
would
there's a
do-
rental or something like that, I put a new one in there. The pickleball one just is their information, and then every once in a while, we add something to it,
But I
so.
was gonna add that to the list of, so that's great that you updated the literature since I've been there, because it wasn't when I was there a few days ago, but whatever. But the structure, the thing itself is just falling apart, as well as the one that's in the middle of the,
The playgrounds, yeah, yeah.
they're just two things that could look much better and be replaced with new. With, whatever they're called, bulletin board holder.
Display board, yeah, display,
Yeah.
memo board.
So can we add that to the list, or are those not big enough to put on the list of, like, where does that go to
I
replace?
mean, I guess you're,
We can do that as part of
Recommending-
the facility
yeah.
walkthrough or the walkthrough and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but it's something I can look into, yeah.
And,
They're ugly, they're falling apart.
bulletin board improvements. There is, I've heard from several people, I'm like three. There is a gentleman who parks a big white van, who has a big dog over in various parking lots. And he comes and he's homeless, he's very nice, I've never had a problem or an issue with him. And he plugs all of his battery stuff into the electrical plugs that are underneath the redwood tree. And one particular person said, is that okay that he does that? And I said, I have no idea if it's for public use or if it is used for events only. But I said I would bring it up to the Park and Rec, if it is for public use or if it's for someone using events, then we could put a little lock on it or something.
Right now, I mean, it's open to the public.
Right, it
That's
is,
there,
and that kind of made her nervous.
Yeah, if anybody's causing a nuisance, the best thing to do is call that.
Yeah, because I've never
inspection
seen a
number.
nuisance problem.
Yeah.
It's just been hearsay, and I said, I'm not reporting anything that's hearsay.
We use them for
Right.
events, we use them for different things going on, but it's for public use. Unless, I
Okay.
mean, like, the one that's at the baseball one is locked,
Okay.
because that's for specific reasons, so, if it becomes a nuisance or a problem, then yeah, we lock them, but we use them
There's,
for.
okay.
anything else for the monthly report or the park events report? I just had one request for finance to not total the deposit and they went back to doing the old way again. Kind of really confusing.
It's gonna be, the reports will start coming from Sheila, so I'll.
Okay. Our next meeting, is in September. And, this is 4th of July weekend. Happy 250th.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys have a fun, holiday. Okay.
Anybody want
motion to
watch
adjourn.
it? Oh, motion to adjourn.
Okay.